The forest was alive with the whispers of the wind, the rustling of leaves, and the distant calls of nocturnal creatures. Under the pale light of the moon, a young woman named Alera moved swiftly through the dense undergrowth. Her bare feet were calloused from years of wandering, and her long, raven-black hair flowed behind her like a shadowy banner. She was a healer, a wanderer, and a woman with a gift, her hair. It was no ordinary hair. It was imbued with a mystical energy, a gift from her ancestors, who had once been revered as guardians of the forest. Alera had been drawn to this part of the woods by an inexplicable pull, a feeling that something or someone needed her. She followed the sensation, her heart pounding in her chest, until she stumbled upon a clearing. There, lying in a pool of crimson, was a man. His body was battered, his clothes torn, and a deep gash ran across his chest. His breathing was shallow, and his skin was pale, almost ghostly in the moonlight. Alera knelt beside him, her hands trembling as she assessed his injuries. The wound was severe, and he had lost a lot of blood. She knew that if she didn't act quickly, he would die. But there was something unusual about him, something otherworldly. His skin was unnaturally warm, and his veins seemed to pulse with a faint, golden light. She had never seen anything like it. Without hesitation, Alera began to work. She gathered her hair into a thick strand and, using a sharp stone, cut a length of it. Her hair was her most precious possession, the source of her healing power, but she didn't hesitate. She wove the strands into a fine thread, her fingers moving with practiced precision. Then she began to stitch his wound. As the first stitch pierced his skin, the man's body jerked, and a low groan escaped his lips. Alera paused, her heart racing, but she knew she couldn't stop. She continued to sew, her hands steady despite the fear that gnawed at her. With each stitch, she felt a strange energy flowing from her hair into his body. The golden light in his veins grew brighter, and his breathing became more regular. When the final stitch was in place, Alera sat back, exhausted. She watched as the man's chest rose and fell with steady breaths, the color returning to his skin. But something was happening, something she hadn't expected. The golden light in his veins began to spread, enveloping his entire body. His form started to shift and change, his limbs elongating, his features becoming more angular and refined. Alera scrambled backward, her eyes wide with shock. The man's transformation was both beautiful and terrifying. His skin took on a luminous quality, and his hair turned a shimmering gold. His eyes, when they opened, were like molten gold, filled with an ancient, otherworldly wisdom. Who are you?" Alera whispered, her voice trembling. The man, or rather, the being, sat up slowly, his movements graceful and deliberate. He looked at her with those golden eyes, and for a moment, she felt as though he could see into her very soul. "I am Elian," he said, his voice deep and resonant, like the tolling of a distant bell, "a guardian of the celestial realms. I was wounded in a battle against a dark force that seeks to destroy the balance between worlds. You have saved me, mortal. Your sacrifice has not gone unnoticed." Alera's mind raced. A guardian of the celestial realms? A battle between worlds? It was too much to comprehend. But one thing was clear. This being, Elian, was no ordinary man. Why did my hair heal you?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Elian's gaze softened, and he reached out to touch a strand of her hair. "Your hair is no ordinary thread, Alera. It is imbued with the essence of the earth itself, a gift from the ancient ones. It has the power to heal, to bind, and to transform. You are a descendant of the guardians of this forest, are you not?" Alera nodded, her throat tight with emotion. She had always known she was different, but she had never fully understood why. Elian stood, his towering form casting a long shadow in the moonlight. "You have done more than heal my body, Alera. You have awakened a power within me that had been dormant for centuries. With your help, I can restore the balance between worlds and defeat the darkness that threatens us all." Alera's heart swelled with a mixture of fear and determination. She had always been a wanderer, a healer, but now she was being called to something greater. She looked into Elian's golden eyes and saw the weight of his burden, the centuries of loneliness and duty. "I will help you," she said, her voice steady despite the fear that still lingered in her heart. "But I need to know what will happen to me, to us." Elian's expression was unreadable, but there was a flicker of something, sadness, perhaps, in his eyes. "The path ahead is fraught with danger, Elara. The dark force I spoke of is powerful, and it will stop at nothing to destroy us. But if we succeed, you will have a place among the celestial guardians. Your gift will be honored, and your name will be remembered for eternity." Alera took a deep breath, her mind racing with thoughts of what lay ahead. She had always been alone, but now she had a purpose, a destiny. She reached out and took Elian's hand, her fingers trembling but resolute. "Then let us begin," she said. The days that followed were a blur of training and preparation. Elian taught Alera how to harness the power within her hair, how to channel its energy into spells and incantations. She learned to weave intricate patterns that could heal, protect, and even attack. Her hair became a weapon, a shield, and a tool, all at once. But as they grew closer, Alera couldn't shake the feeling that something was changing within her. Her hair, once raven black, began to take on a golden hue, much like Elian's. Her eyes, too, began to shimmer with a faint golden light. She was becoming something more than human, something closer to Elian's celestial nature. One night, as they sat by a campfire, Alera turned to Elian and asked the question that had been weighing on her mind. "What will happen to me when this is over? Will I become like you?" Elian was silent for a long time, his gaze fixed on the flames. Finally, he spoke, his voice heavy with emotion. "The transformation has already begun, Alera. Your sacrifice, your willingness to give of yourself, has awakened the celestial blood within you. When this is over, you will no longer be mortal. You will become a guardian, like me." Alera's heart ached with a mixture of fear and longing. She had always been a wanderer, but the thought of leaving her mortal life behind was both exhilarating and terrifying. "And what about us?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Elian reached out and took her hand, his touch warm and reassuring. "We are bound, Alera, not just by duty, but by something deeper. The bond we share is rare, even among the celestial guardians. Whatever happens, we will face it together." Alera felt a surge of emotion, a sense of belonging that she had never known before. She leaned into Elian, her heart full of hope and determination. The final battle was fierce and brutal. The dark force, a monstrous entity of shadow and flame, attacked with a ferocity that seemed to shake the very earth. But Alera and Elian fought as one, their powers intertwined. Alera's hair glowed with a radiant light as she wove spells of protection and healing, while Elian's golden energy blazed like a sun, driving back the darkness.